Sometimes that trauma memory or PTSD, like we always hear about the negative responses of it, but we don't think about the fact that sometimes that feels warm. Sometimes that feels comfortable because it's familiar. And familiarity, I hope I'm saying that right, feels safe. It feels warm because it's familiar. The devil you know is better than the angel that you don't. Hey, what is going on? Where you all been? I mean, I've been waiting here looking for you all. Hey babes, what's up? So lately I have been doing vlogs. If you haven't noticed, they are oddly enough more so for me than they are for you all. It's to help me get myself in tune with myself from a third person perspective, to look at myself in the camera and see how I show up on camera because I feel like it's a whole different part of my personality that comes out because I'm speaking to a device and not people. But I also have to keep in mind that people are going to be watching it while also keeping in mind that this is for me to document myself, my ups, my downs, my epiphanies. So, in all of that, I've had a lot of epiphanies. And one of the things that came up for me recently in one of my vlogs was how I was so excited to heal and get to know myself and be in a better place. And I had this idea that I was going to be so happy, so free, just everything in life was going to be perfect once I healed and it was just going to fix all of my issues. And I ended up getting a very odd perspective of healing and the journey of healing. And I feel like even now I'm starting to see myself grow and evolve in different ways now that I'm vlogging. But when I think back how I was when I was first becoming aware and awake to myself and how I show up, and then how that reflects outside of me, it was not what I expected in the sense of I ended up growing into an outsider more so than growing within my community. I just thought to myself, like, how the hell did I get here? Healing yourself is great until it's not. I ended up going from a place of being super excited and happy and healed and blissful. And that's the high of the highs of the mountains, right? But there's also valleys in that as well. As you level up and evolve, there's mountain highs and valleys that just don't touch the ones that you just left. And the valleys were the more I heal, the more I move away from people, the more comfort in my own energy. And for a long time, that sounds good, right? But just like an addiction, you can get stuck in this place of hermit mode where you don't want to leave the house, you don't want to interact with people, you go out of your way to stay away from others and avoid people and not give people chances. Those are the pitfalls because whatever you do outside of yourself is also a reflection of what you do to yourself. When you're not giving other people chances, there's an area in your life where you're also not giving yourself chances. When you're judging other people, there's a sense in the area in your life where you're judging yourself harshly as well. To be able to find balance within that, it ended up being a whole nother stage where now I feel like I come off kind of boring. And even though that's okay for me, when it comes to making content and putting myself out there to the masses, how the hell does that work? Because so many people unknowingly, even when they're on this journey, even when they're religious, even when they think they got it all figured out and they're harmonious and they're balanced, a lot of people are still addicted to chaos, drama, trauma, victimizing. There's so many things that people hold on to that give them excitement in their life and they don't even realize it. They don't beep it. You really don't notice it until it truly does not move you anymore. It's very interesting how a lot of people don't recognize they're addicted to all of those things. You don't notice it until you're no longer in that addiction. When it comes to being in that vicious cycle of being addicted to things that are linked to emotional trauma, it really makes you sit there and think some jokes or memes or videos you may relate to on social media, or you may relate to friends saying certain things and you don't think it's a big deal, but it's still an addiction. It's still a cycle. It's still entertainment of those things. When I say this though, if you feel like you've experienced this, or if you feel like you do this, don't get self conscious. Don't feel like you have to all of a sudden switch up and be better and do better. That's not the point of this. It's not to force you into things, it's just to get you to look at it. Look at how you operate, look at how you respond to certain things that may not bring you into a higher vibration, but it's something that you can relate to that makes you feel warm inside. Sometimes that trauma memory or PTSD, like we always hear about the negative responses of it, but we don't think about the fact that sometimes that feels warm, sometimes that feels comfortable because it's familiar. And familiarity, I hope I'm saying that right, feels safe. It feels warm because it's familiar. The devil you know is better than the angel that you don't. Oh, I just got chills. When you think of it from that perspective, it really makes you switch up and look at things really crazy. But when you do that, you don't want to attack yourself. Like, why am I entertaining that? Why am I liking that? You just want to observe. When you get really hard and scrutinize yourself the way you think you need to, it might also go back to how your parents parented you as well. And there's no sense in abusing yourself in order to force yourself to be healthy. We're trying to get away from that. We're trying to move away from that energy of you have to be harsh, you have to get beat up. Spirit and life has to bring down these massive tower moments on you for you to be able to switch up and see that this is not the direction you should be headed. It should just be a simple nudge, a gentle nudge. That is one of the hardest parts about healing. I feel like that's the first stage, is self-realization and getting real with yourself about exactly what's going on. When you first realize that you're doing things wrong, you want to put a screeching halt to everything that you're doing and chastise yourself. And it sounds weird that I'm going to say this. This probably goes against everything that people say on the internet. You still want to be you. Just be who you are, do what you're doing. That's what I did. I was like, you know what? I don't know which way to change. I don't know which way is healthy. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to start becoming more aware and pay attention to how I feel, what I'm telling myself, how I respond to others, and how others respond to me. And when they're responding to me and I'm not saying anything, what are the nonverbal cues that I'm throwing out there for them to feel comfortable doing that? And I started to understand that the people that you're around that watched you grow up, people that you're friends with, people that are acquaintances that are always around you, they're so used to you behaving a certain type of way that they have a version of you stuck in their mind that may not even exist to you. But because you've allowed so many things to transpire for so long, you won't know. No matter how I behave now when I change, this person is still going to hold me to that standard of that version of me that they created. And you may have helped too. Let's not act like you didn't have a hand in that as well. You definitely had a hand in it. You just weren't aware of it. You still have the freedom to be able to move around and change. I think that the change part is so difficult because you actually have to be true to yourself and see how you also facilitated a lot of the hurt that you received by allowing certain things to take place and transpire. That is where a lot of people hold on to victim mentality because they feel like someone did them wrong. So they're the villain, they're the problem. And only if that person would change, or only if that person would get out of their life and they would get a brand new person that treats them better, then that's the only way that the problem will be solved. But something that I think a lot of people don't realize is, even if you do switch out that boyfriend, that girlfriend, even if you do switch out that car, even if you do switch out that job, even if you could switch out that mom, that dad, for the most part, things will start to settle back into what it used to be. The energy will go back into what it used to be. And since you're dealing with a different person, it's just going to manifest a different way because you are in the same energy. Let me give you guys an example. When I used to date, I used to be so ecstatic. I would have so much energy when I first meet someone. I was just infatuated with them. Everything that they did, I just loved it. I was into it. I was just like, oh, this might be my person. We've all been there. I can see this future with them, and I'm just running in my head with this entire future with this stranger, right? And I didn't have any intentional ways of dating to figure out whether this person and I are actually going to be able to be good together. And I also wasn't aware that I needed to control myself when it came to dating. You don't give everyone all of your energy up front the very second that you meet them. And I think a lot of us, when we meet people that don't give their all in the beginning, we think that they're hiding. We think that they're not honest. You know what I mean? And that is not the case. The case is you're doing too much. And baby, I was doing too much. The way I was operating in dating was determining how people were seeing me and treating me. So I may get a good catch, and then the good catch would switch up, and I would think like, oh, he was pretending this whole time. When in all actuality, when he first met me, because people can see your light, they saw me in a different light. They saw me for who I'm supposed to be. They probably saw my higher self, because there's a part of you that will always stay in tune and connected with your higher self. There's a part of you that will always shine through. It might be the way you dress, it might be the way you speak or articulate things, it might be the way you hustle and your accolades, but you're missing a whole bunch of other stuff. Do you see what I'm saying? So as they get to know you, they're like, actually, this person is coming off desperate. And that is how I was coming off, even though I wasn't desperate to me. And feel free to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, because I haven't Googled the definition. I personally felt that being desperate meant I can't live without you. No matter what, I'm going to move mountains to be with you. That wasn't the case. I was just interested in you and excited to spend time with you and talk to you and get to know you, because I wanted that happily ever after ending. So I was willing to give everybody that chance, when in all actuality, I should have been like, okay, this is the application process. Nonetheless, that was misread on their part, because they would start to pull away thinking like, oh, I don't have to do anything. She's doing all of the footwork for the upkeep of this interaction. She's doing all of the calling first, all of the texting first, she's super interested. There's nothing to work for. I can just sit back and relax. And these are what a lot of you all are calling the passenger princess dudes, like, because you're doing too much. I'm not saying play games. I'm just saying calm down. Start to learn how to control yourself. If you want somebody that's going to control themselves, you have to learn how to control yourself as well, right? When I realized that I have to take time to myself and give dating a break and learn how to control myself if I'm interested in someone, I had to learn how to have self love enough where I wasn't over giving for no reason. Just because he's breathing, just because he hit the genetic lottery, or he may have a good job or whatever. I don't know what you all are looking at, and I don't even know or remember what I was looking at. I was more so chasing the thrill, and I was using everybody as a science experiment actually, to be 1,000% honest. I really didn't know what I wanted, and I just wanted to try all the ice cream to see exactly what it was that I was interested in. What type of guy am I interested in? Do I want a book smart guy? Do I want a highly intelligent guy? Do I want a spiritual guy? Do I want a rich guy? Do I care if he has any money and he's poor guy? Like, I just wanted to figure out what type of guy it was for me. And all of that, I realized looking back, I was doing a lot of things wrong. And now I've done a lot of things right, and there's still a lot to learn. I just had to realize that a lot of those failed relationships, it wasn't because they were all bad or evil or whatever. They were just peeping energy. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't have integrity, and they're going to use whatever they can use, and they're going to abuse whatever they can abuse. It's up to you to stand in your power in a certain way so that people understand that don't even try it. Same thing with a car. You can buy a brand new car, but if you don't put gas in that car, it's not going to run. If you don't clean your fuel injectors, then your gas is not going to last for a long time. If you don't get your oil changed, your car is going to break down. And it's not that you bought a bad car, you bought a lemon. It's the fact that you didn't do what you needed to do. You had a job and you needed to show up a certain type of way in order for it to operate the way it needed to operate. Now, the positive of just coming into realization of who you are and seeing your actions and how everything transpires, you also get the chance of, at the end of that cycle, to reap the benefits. You get to realize, like, hey, I am the person in control of my life. It's up to me. And now that I have the tools and the confidence, I can execute whatever it is that I need to execute. It's not this facade of someone behind the curtains pulling all of the strings, some higher force making all the decisions for you, and you just got dealt the most horrible hand in the whole entire world for the rest of your life and you're stuck with it. You're not stuck with it. It does take a lot of strength and perseverance in order to shift what's happening. For a lot of us, we got to have a strong mind and a strong stomach, because when you see how you act, you start to realize the things that you hate in others, you possess that as well. And that's a hard look that we need to take. I think that's something that can shatter somebody, to see that the whole time a majority of the things that have been transpiring in their life that they dislike, they had a lot of fault in it, a lot more than they thought. I don't know about you, but personally for me, I think to myself, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to continue to live this crazy life, or are you going to get up and do something about it? Are you going to change it? Are you going to be serious? Are you going to see it through? And baby, guess what? I'm going to see it through. Even if whatever I plan for myself turns out not to be what I thought it was going to be, and it didn't turn out as it planned. Like, let's say I'm a billionaire. Okay, let's just reach high. And I realize, like, actually, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. At least I lived it to know. I always want to be able to know so that I can let the rest go. So I don't have this aspiration that I feel like I'll never be able to reach and I just never attempted to reach. I feel like that is more damning to the spirit than anything else. I want to go for it and I want to see it through, and I want to do it with as much integrity and love and patience for myself as I can. Have you thought about that? Is that something that you're willing to do for yourself? Because that's a big step, but that is a genuinely loving step. Why don't we mess around and find out one day? And every time we mess around and find out, we gain something. Either we gain a win or we gain some knowledge. And I tell you this, that knowledge, that wisdom will always ultimately get you to your win. So do the hard things. Lay down the boundaries. Make the choices that benefit you first and then others second. Don't give out energy that you don't have to others. Learn how to know when to respond and when not to respond. And also understand that When you don't respond, you're not losing or forfeiting some secret war. Understand that that is strength. Now, when it comes to healing, I would love to think that there's a easygoing part. To me personally, I felt like when I realized who I was and I understood myself better, no matter what hit me, I just knew what to do with it instinctively. I didn't have to spend too much time thinking. I didn't feel uncomfortable in those circumstances and those energies. I just understood what to do. And it came to me like second nature. It was very comfortable for me to be able to learn from my past and learn through the lessons and actually feel like I was breaking cycles. Once I felt like I was breaking those cycles and I just understood what was needed of me in my life at that point in time, that was a beautiful, easygoing energy. I also believe it's safe to say that the superpower in that version of myself in my healing stage was knowing who I was. Since I knew where my intentions lied and I wasn't lying to myself about what things were, I wasn't lying to myself about being kind and nice. I wasn't lying to myself about being angry and mean. I wasn't lying to myself about anything. I understood who I was and I was willing to grow and give myself the proper patience that I needed to be able to grow in who I was. And I got to a stage where I didn't have to question what was going on in certain situations. I understood when people were projecting, I understood when people were operating from their trauma. There were things that I just understood about others because I understood myself. I understood that when I did things that were absolutely right for me and I needed to put myself first in certain situations, I was okay with being the villain in their story if that's where they wanted their story to lead. If they had a problem with me standing up for myself, if they had a problem with me distancing myself, if they had a problem with me setting boundaries, and this is the thing that people do, they'll call you names, they'll behave as if you're the one causing destruction and disarray and uncomfortability in a situation. They'll say, oh, this person thinks they're better than me or thinks they're better than other people. They're acting a certain type of way. They're not coming around anymore. They think they're too good for XYZ. You may not think you're too good for that in the way that they're trying to depict it. You just understand that that no longer serves you. That's okay. You should have the right to be able to say, you know what, this no longer serves me, and to sit on the porch in the hood anymore, knowing that I'm putting myself in a circumstance that I don't want to be in. It no longer serves me to date people that don't value me or women. It no longer serves me to not speak up when I need to. It just no longer serves me to do the push and pull with people that don't want to acknowledge that I'm growing and I'm changing, and everything that transpired before this is no longer going to feed my soul. If people can't find a space to say, you know what, I understand, it may hurt me or I may feel a way about this, and maybe we can talk about it at a later date, but I get it. And I don't want to hold you back from that. And hopefully I can find that for myself. That is where I personally feel like humanity should be finding itself. Not, oh, they're a problem because they want to change. They're a problem because now they think they're too good. Now, if you do think you're too good and you're big headed and you got this God complex, that's a whole nother story. This is not a video for that. I'm not talking to people like that. So if you're watching this and you're thinking about somebody and you're like, oh, but I know for a fact, okay, this is not for them. Moving on. No matter how hard or easygoing the healing journey is, no matter where you are, because you're going to be pushed and pulled in different directions. And it kind of seems like the same vibe, but you're just on a different level of the same vibe. There's always going to be bliss in that part of your journey, and there's always going to be disappointments in that part of your journey. There's always going to be the mountains and the valleys, right? When you're at your highs, hold on to that feeling, hold on to that bliss. Just understand that there's always going to be ebbs and flows. It's so important to realize this because we get so caught up in the good and want to hold on to the past that we damn the future. Let me make that a little clearer. We get so caught up in how beautiful our energy is that we don't want to share it with the collective. We don't want to experience the collective. We don't want to be around the collective because the collective is still hurting. That is channeling because I really want to cry. And I found myself in that stage as well. I found myself in a place where I just want to sit in the house and stay away from everybody. And if anybody messes up my mood, it's like, ooh, let me get away from you. There's more compassion that needs to be given. We go through the stages where we find paradise and we're like, oh, yo, it's because once you find something good, you want to share it. You want to share it. Everybody isn't ready for it though. They're not ready for that experience. When you realize that, you give up on them, you give up on the collective, you give up on humanity. And it shows up in different ways. Either you get very abrasive and mean and trying to force your thought process and your beliefs onto other people, or you just are really disappointed and disgusted and you want to stay away from them and you just want to sit in your energy and your vibe that you've created in your paradise and live your days out there. I'm getting chills. Like, I think that it's something that we all need to hear, including myself, is resonating with my inner being and my spirit and my higher self. I had to come to terms with the fact that people are still feeding off of things that I know I no longer resonate with. When you get to that place, not only do you alienate yourself, but others also alienate you as well. It feels like there's nothing that resonates between the two. It feels like there's nothing that's relatable. So you come off boring and they come off very toxic. It turns into a good and bad thing. And I'm starting to realize that there's a certain level of patience that I have to have, because having patience with them is also giving me patience within myself and helping me reach a place where the disappointments turn into understandings always. And it doesn't mean that you allow people to treat you a certain way. It just means that you give your mind peace and you give yourself grace. I experienced that this past week. Actually, let's do story time real quick. I went to Ulta to get some wax. So I went to pick up the wax and I had a magazine that had a $10 off coupon. And I was like, okay, cool. This particular day, I was in a rush and I was trying to get a whole bunch of things done on my list. So I didn't read the stipulations for the $10 off. My bad, but somebody gave me grace, so I wasn't tripping. When I got to the register, I asked a young lady if I could use the coupon, and she was like, oh, you have to spend a certain amount in order to get the coupon. Instant math in my head, I was like, oh, so I just need to get 2 of the waxes. That's fine. So I was like, just go ahead and scan it twice, and I'll just go grab another one and I'll leave. Now, because I used to work in retail, I understand that inventory is a headache. So when I went back to grab the wax, I realized that the same SKU, so the same type of wax that I had, there wasn't another one. I had to get a whole separate one. So I just went and got a separate one. Instead of just walking out the door, I went back up to the register and I got someone else. I explained everything to him like, hey, this was scanned twice, but you guys don't have 2 of them. So I just need to swap out one of them so that the SKUs match. He was not comprehending what I was saying. And I'll tell you something, you guys. I always say I don't judge, but I do. That's not true. I do be judging. I just don't judge the way people think that I judge. So I'm not going to make you feel bad for the mistakes that you're doing. I'm not going to make you feel away unless you're real close to me, because I got to ride you. We going to joke about that. If I don't know you and you do something or you make a mistake, I'm not going to make you feel slow. But in my mind, I might be eating you up. Like, what is the problem? It took him like 20 minutes to understand what I was saying. it got to the point where he returned one of them and was taking one away, and he didn't understand what was going on. I had to swipe my card like 3-4 times. He kept apologizing, and I was like, I don't understand what the disconnect is. Before I even allowed myself to get irritated, I was like, we're gonna figure it out. I don't have anywhere to go. I don't have anywhere to be. Either way it goes, I'm still gonna walk out with both of them. As long as I'm not overcharged, I don't really care. And it's not a big deal to make an issue about it and get upset about it and think anything about him. If he doesn't understand, he just doesn't understand. But we ended up having a really good conversation because he was like, I'm so sorry. I was misunderstanding everything that you were saying. And he admitted to it. That also made it easier, because people that don't admit to their shortcomings also make it difficult for people that are trying their best to be patient with them. Okay. But he admitted it. He was like, I just wasn't understanding. I wasn't getting it. And I was like, it's okay. We gonna figure it out. And when I said that, it gave him room to be comfortable and for him to calm down so that he can understand and really take in what I was saying. And then he finally got it. We judge people all day, every day. It's not them that's ruining our day. It's our expectation and our judgment that we put on others that really bring down our experience. That within itself can make this journey lonely. That within itself can make you feel like you'll never find your tribe, because you don't give space for people to show up however they show up. If they're lacking, but that's the best that they can do, then they're lacking and that's the best that they can do. You will get your turn. You'll get your turn when you're lacking and you're trying your best and it's just not enough. Let's hope and pray that you're around someone that gives you grace, even when you're not willing to give it to yourself. This is where I'm going to wrap up this video. I really enjoyed having this conversation. When I look back on it, I know that I'm going to get some deep revelations because I felt it in my spirit. I hope you guys get something from everything that I said. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you are returning and you aren't subscribed yet, definitely subscribe and hit the like button. It's going to help us find our tribe, okay? I will see you guys in the next video. Peace, love, and a little bit of spice. Mwah.